imagine waking up on like the most photographed, scrutinized, and just generally high-stakes day of your life.
Oh, the pressure is just massive.
It really is. So, you walk into the bathroom, you look in the mirror, and you realize that despite 6 months of meticulous, incredibly expensive skincare, your face looks completely dull.
And puffy.
Puffy, dull, exhausted. Basically, biologically, your skin is just in absolute panic mode.
It really is.
So today, we are going to dive into how to hack that panic. Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and I'm joined by our resident expert to unpack all of this.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, we're looking at those crucial hours right before a massive event, like a wedding or maybe a keynote presentation.
Or even a life-changing interview, right?
Exactly. We're unpacking the exact biological mechanisms you need to, force your skin into a state of glowing radiance.
Right, because the margin for error on a morning like that feels microscopic.
Oh, absolutely. But the actual science of what's happening to the skin is deeply logical. We just have to understand the specific chemical and physical levers we need to pull to, reverse that panic.
And the blueprint we are using to pull those levers today comes from an incredibly detailed guide we sourced from the Weddizer website.
It's such a great resource.
It really is. What makes Weddizer such a powerful resource for this specific scenario is that it isn't just a generic beauty blog.
No, not at all.
If you dive into the article section on the Weddizer platform, you find this highly specialized, niche wellness and skincare guidance designed for these high-stress, high-stakes events.
Right, they treat the morning of not just as a continuation of your daily routine, but as a highly tactical, localized intervention.
Yes, to unlock what they call the wedding day glow.
The core philosophy there is recognizing that the skin is a dynamic, highly reactive organ.
Which people forget.
All the time. The assumption is often that, if someone has maintained a flawless, dermatologist-approved regimen for a year, their skin is somehow bulletproof.
And that's the great frustration, right? People spend hundreds of dollars on retinol cycles and barrier repair, and then one bad night of sleep.
One bad night. And it seems to undo an entire year of structural work. I mean, I know I've looked in the mirror after tossing and turning before a big meeting and thought, my face just aged 5 years overnight.
Oh, we've all been there. But we have to separate the structural health of the skin from its temporary functional state.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Well, those months of good skincare absolutely build structural health. They create dense collagen matrices, resilient lipid barriers, regulated cellular turnover. A single night of anxiety doesn't dissolve a year's worth of collagen.
Yeah.
The architecture of his skin remains intact.
So the building is structurally sound, but the power has basically been cut.
That is the perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
The environment inside the building has completely shifted.
Wow, okay.
When we talk about wedding jitters or severe anticipatory anxiety, the mind-skin connection operates at a terrifying speed.
Because your brain doesn't know the difference, right? Exactly. The human body does not differentiate between the anxiety of giving a speech to 500 people and, the anxiety of being chased by a predator.
That's wild.
The sympathetic nervous system perceives a threat and initiates a massive fight-or-flight cascade.
So cortisol and adrenaline just flood the system.
They flood the system entirely, and the body immediately initiates peripheral vasoconstriction.
Peripheral vasoconstriction, so shrinking blood vessels.
Right. In a survival scenario, your body prioritizes oxygen and blood flow for vital organs.
Like the heart and lungs?
The heart, the lungs, the major muscle groups in your legs so you can run away. It literally clamps down the microcapillaries in your skin to shunt blood inward.
Which completely explains the phrase pale with trite.
Exactly. But on a slightly milder scale, like waking up nervous for an event, that lack of peripheral blood flow just manifests as this gray, lifeless dullness.
Because the blood is gone.
The blood and all the oxygen it carries has literally been evacuated from your face.
That is so fascinating. But wait, the dullness is only part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about the puffiness?
Ah, yes. The oxygen deprivation is only half the problem. The other half is the secondary effect of cortisol.
Okay.
When cortisol remains elevated throughout a restless night, it acts as a systemic inflammatory hormone. It triggers the kidneys to reabsorb sodium.
And where sodium goes, water follows.
You got it. The body begins hoarding fluid.
And because you are lying horizontally while trying to sleep, Gravity isn't pulling that retained fluid down into the body.
Right, it just pools in the tissues of the face.
The worst.
Specifically in the areas where the skin is the thinnest and has the least underlying fat or muscle to support it.
Which is right under the eyes.
The infraorbital region, exactly. The capillaries there dilate from the inflammation, they leak fluid into the surrounding interstitial tissue, and you wake up with severe under-eye baggage.
So to recap, the skin is structurally fine, but functionally it's oxygen-starved, inflamed, and waterlogged.
That's the panic state.
Okay, so the Weddizer protocol starts with a physical intervention to hit the reset button on this panic.
Yes, step one.
The very first action recommended in their articles is cleansing with a mild cleanser and lukewarm water. And they explicitly warn against the use of hot water.
This is crucial.
We hear the phrase stripping the skin in beauty marketing constantly. But thinking about the biological state you just described, using hot water seems like an actively destructive choice.
It is. If we zoom in on the microscopic surface of the epidermis, the very top layer.
The stratum corneum.
Right, it's coated in a lipid barrier. This is a complex, invisible layer of natural ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids mixed with sweat and sebum.
Kind of like a security system.
It functions as the ultimate security system. It locks internal cellular hydration inside the tissue and forms a hostile environment against external bacteria and irritants.
So it's basically the waterproofing on a rain jacket.
Precisely. And we know how lipids react to heat. Washing a greasy pan with cold water is completely ineffective because the fat remains solid. Hot water melts the fat instantly.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, when someone uses hot water on their face, particularly when combining it with a foaming cleanser containing harsh surfactants, they are emulsifying and washing away their face's entire security system.
Listen to you explain this lipid barrier. It sounds like we're treating our skin like a greasy frying pan when we use hot water.
We really are.
But actually, it's more like delicate silk. I mean, you'd never throw an expensive silk garment into a heavy-duty hot water laundry cycle in the morning you need to wear it.
Never. You're going to warp the fibers and destroy the texture entirely.
So what happens physically when you melt that barrier off your face?
The physical consequence is massive transepidermal water loss. The moment that lipid layer is melted away, the moisture residing inside the lower layers of the skin immediately begins evaporating into the dry air.
Just escaping into the atmosphere.
Yes, the skin dehydrates in minutes. Furthermore, without that smooth lipid coating, the surface becomes microscopic sandpaper.
Which sounds terrible for makeup.
It's the worst. Any cosmetic foundation applied over stripped skin will catch on the uneven edges of dehydrated cells. It ends up looking incredibly patchy and textured.
Okay, so lukewarm water respects the silk. It cleans without melting the structural fats.
Exactly.
But simply washing the face, even gently, still disrupts the environment a little, right?
It does. Which brings us to the next phase of the reset. Restoring the pH balance and flooding the skin with hydration.
Right, and the Weddizer guide points to hydrating toners for this. They specifically highlight 3 ingredients: rosewater, aloe vera, and hyaluronic acid.
The pH factor is critical to understand here. Healthy human skin is slightly acidic.
Wait, really? Acidic?
Yes, hovering around a 4.7 to 5.5 on the pH scale. This is called the acid mantle, and that acidity is what keeps the microbiome balanced.
Okay, but tap water isn't acidic.
Right. Tap water sits right at a neutral 7.0, and many cleansers lean alkaline. The mere act of splashing tap water on the face forces the skin's pH upward.
Which freaks the skin out.
It can temporarily impair barrier function, yeah.
So the toner acts as an acidic anchor. It rapidly pulls the environment back down to that safe 5.5 baseline so the skin stops panicking.
While simultaneously delivering a rescue squad of anti-inflammatory compounds.
Like the rosewater.
Exactly. Rosewater contains natural phenolics and vitamin C, making it a potent antioxidant that immediately begins calming the vascular reactivity.
That redness caused by the cortisol spikes.
Right. And then aloe vera provides mucopolysaccharides, which bind moisture to the skin and deeply soothe the inflamed tissue.
And then there's the heavy lifter of modern skincare, hyaluronic acid. I feel like this is in everything now, but the sheer mechanical capability of this molecule is fascinating.
It really is. Hyaluronic acid is a glycosaminoglycan.
Like a what?
Glycosaminoglycan. It's a massive sugar molecule that naturally occurs in our connective tissue. Its defining characteristic is its capacity as a humectant.
Meaning it grabs water.
It can bind and hold roughly 1,000 times its own molecular weight in water.
That is insane.
When applied topically in a toner, it functions as a microscopic hydrosponge. It grabs ambient moisture and moisture from the product itself, holding it flush against the stratum corneum.
Which literally forces the dehydrated, shriveled surface cells to swell.
They physically plump up. This instantly smooths out the microcrevices and fine dehydration lines.
Okay, I love that.
And the secondary and perhaps more crucial benefit of this plumping is permeability.
Permeability. Like a kitchen sponge.
Yes, exactly like a sponge.
Because a bone-dry sponge repels water. If you spill something on a dry sponge, the liquid just rolls off the surface.
Right.
But if you take that same sponge and make it slightly damp first, it absorbs everything you put on it instantly and deeply.
That is the perfect analogy. The damp hyaluronic acid prepped skin is highly permeable. It is now chemically optimized to pull in the active, targeted ingredients that follow.
Which brings up a massive screaming warning in the Weddizer text.
Oh, the warning. We have to talk about this.
It explicitly tells readers to absolutely avoid trying any new products on the morning of an event. Like, 0 new products to prevent irritation.
That is the golden rule.
But the psychology of a high-stress morning pushes people to do the exact opposite. Someone looks in the mirror, sees the dullness and the stress, and they panic.
They want a miracle.
Right. They reach for a highly concentrated, expensive sample jar of a chemical peel or some botanical extract they've never touched before, hoping for a magic bullet.
The biological reality of that decision is akin to playing Russian roulette with your immune system.
Oh, wow.
The skin is already in a state of heightened reactivity due to the systemic cortisol.
It's already on edge.
Introducing an unfamiliar botanical compound or a high percentage acid into that environment is begging for an immune response. Contact dermatitis is not a slow process.
The immune system identifies the new ingredient as a hostile invader.
Immediately. Histamines are released instantly. Within 10 minutes, the skin can erupt in localized hives, severe
Erythema,
which is deep redness. Deep redness, yes. Or extreme swelling. It can take weeks of topical steroids to fully calm a severe contact dermatitis reaction.
Yikes. So the morning of a highly photographed event is strictly about predictability.
Stick to the script, no experiments.
Good advice. Okay, so the canvas is now neutralized, pH balanced, and plumped. Now we introduce the targeted active ingredients meant to create that immediate flash of radiance.
The glow phase.
The Weddizer guide recommends a vitamin C brightening serum for instant luminosity and defense against environmental stress, followed by chilled eye patches for 10 to 15 minutes.
This represents the transition from soothing the skin to actively manipulating its optical and vascular properties.
Yeah, optical properties. That's so interesting because we hear words like luminosity thrown around endlessly in beauty marketing.
Oh, constantly.
But taking it down to a purely mechanical level, vitamin C must be altering the way light physically interacts with the skin to create that glow.
It absolutely is. The perception of a glow is entirely dependent on the physics of light reflection.
Okay, break that down for me.
If the stratum corneum is uneven, like if it has a buildup of dead keratinocytes or micropigmentation from old blemishes.
Like a bumpy road.
Exactly. When photons of light hit the face, they scatter in thousands of different disorganized directions. The human eye processes the scattered light as a matte, flat, dull surface.
Like light hitting a piece of unpolished raw wood.
Yes. Vitamin C, specifically L-ascorbic acid, is both a potent antioxidant and, at certain pH levels, a mild chemical exfoliant.
So it smooths the wood.
It works rapidly to dissolve the desmosomes. Those are the tiny protein bridges that hold dead skin cells to the surface. By gently sloughing off that microscopic layer of unevenness, the surface becomes remarkably smooth.
Turning the unpolished wood into a polished mirror.
When a camera flash or sunlight hits that smooth surface, the photons reflect back in a uniform, parallel direction. That concentrated reflection is what registers optically as luminosity.
That is so cool. I've never thought about a glow as just parallel photons.
That's all it is. Furthermore, vitamin C provides structural defense.
Right. The Weddizer text highlights protection against environmental stress, which honestly I feel is far more severe on an event day than people realize.
People underestimate it completely.
Because we always picture environmental stress as like walking through smog in a polluted city. But if someone is spending their wedding day inside a beautiful, pristine indoor venue, the idea of environmental stress seems almost non-existent.
It seems that way, but the indoor environment of a major event is a gauntlet of stressors.
Really? Like what?
First, there are massive temperature and humidity fluctuations, moving from a steaming shower to a heavily air-conditioned bridal suite,
Oh, true?
stepping outside for photos in the wind and returning to a crowded, heated banquet hall. These rapid atmospheric changes violently disrupt the skin's moisture balance.
Because the skin is constantly trying to acclimate, expanding and contracting.
Exactly. Then you have the physical stressors, the sheer volume of people physically touching your face,
Oh my gosh, relatives hugging and kissing you.
transferring heavy perfumes, hairsprays, and foreign bacteria right onto your skin barrier.
That's actually terrifying when you think about it.
And add to that the constant barrage of high-intensity flash photography. All of these factors generate reactive oxygen species.
That are known as free radicals.
Free radicals, yes. Unstable molecules missing an electron. They tear through the skin trying to steal electrons from healthy cells.
The vitamin C stops that.
Vitamin C functions as a sacrificial electron donor. It neutralizes those free radicals the moment they hit the skin, preventing them from degrading the underlying collagen matrix or triggering an inflammatory redness response.
It essentially deploys a microscopic invisible shield over the face.
A perfect shield.
So the shield is up, the skin is reflecting light uniformly. Now we have to address the under eye area.
The hardest part.
The guide doesn't just say to apply an eye cream. It specifically dictates using chilled eye patches for 10 to 15 minutes to combat the dark circles and puffiness caused by those jitters.
Yes, the chilled aspect is key.
The application of cold therapy here is pure thermodynamics and vascular biology, right?
The mechanism is elegantly simple, but incredibly powerful. Remember the puffiness under the eyes we talked about?
The pooled lymphatic fluid and blood plasma leaking from the dilated capillary.
Exactly. Those vessels are wide open, slack, and engorged due to the inflammatory markers from the stress.
Like a leaky, unpressurized garden hose just spilling water into the surrounding mud.
Yes. The moment you introduce a significantly lower temperature via a chilled eye patch, the body responds to prevent localized heat loss.
By shrinking the vessels.
The smooth muscle lining the walls of those blood vessels forcefully contracts. This is extreme vasoconstriction.
And as the vessel shrinks, it decreases the internal volume.
It acts as a mechanical pump. The rapid shrinking literally squeezes the excess plasma and lymphatic fluid out of the interstitial tissue.
Wow, where does it go?
It forces it back into the lymphatic capillaries to be drained away from the face entirely.
So the cold isn't just like a soothing sensation. It is physically displacing the fluid that is causing the three-dimensional bulge under the eye.
Exactly. Combined with the gentle physical compression of the hydrogel patch itself, the topography of the under eye area is drastically flattened.
That's incredible. And does it help with the color too? The dark circles?
Yes, because simultaneously, the vasoconstriction slows the blood flow in that specific area, which reduces the purplish-blue pooling that causes dark circles. In 15 minutes, you have manipulated temperature to completely alter the vascular landscape of the face.
Science is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have flooded the skin with hydration, we've applied antioxidants, we've pumped out the fluid.
We're making great progress.
But none of this matters if it all just evaporates.
Which it will, if you stop there.
Right. So the Weddizer protocol moves to sealing the deal, focusing on moisture and protection. The logic dictates that active ingredients need a functional roof over them, or they escape back into the atmosphere.
If you pour premium gasoline into a tank with a massive leak, you aren't going to get very far. The moisturizer is the sealant.
The guide makes a very clear, deliberate distinction here. It advises a lightweight, non-greasy gel for oily skin, and a cream for dry skin.
This is a fundamental rule.
This isn't just a texture preference, is it? It's a difference in formulation chemistry designed to prevent flakiness and create an unmovable base for makeup.
It revolves around the physiological ratio of water to lipids in the specific individual skin. Oily skin is characterized by overactive sebaceous glands producing excessive amounts of sebum.
The skin's natural oil.
Right. What oily skin often lacks, however, is pure water.
So it's oil-rich, but water-poor.
Precisely. If you apply a heavy cream to oily skin, you are creating an absolute disaster.
Because creams have oil in them.
A cream is an emulsion that contains a high percentage of occlusive oils and waxes. Adding external oil on top of a biologically excessive layer of internal oil creates a frictionless surface.
Meaning there's nothing for the makeup to grip onto.
Exactly. The foundation will literally detach from the epidermis and slide around the face, gathering in the creases of the nose and the expression lines.
Oh, that is a nightmare for photos. So a gel is better.
A gel moisturizer is formulated entirely differently. It is an aqueous, water-based network heavily loaded with humectants and virtually devoid of heavy occlusives.
So it brings the water without the oil.
It delivers the massive dose of water the oily skin desperately needs to stay plump, but it absorbs instantly, leaving a matte, highly grippy surface for cosmetic application.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now, dry skin operates on an entirely different efficiency.
Right. It lacks both water and the natural sebum needed to trap that water.
So without natural sebum, what happens?
The microscopic skin cells on the surface begin to curl at the edges and detach prematurely.
Which is what we see as flakiness.
Yes. A cream moisturizer provides both the water and synthetic or plant-based lipids.
Emollients like squalane, ceramides, or shea butter.
Exactly. These lipids act as mortar between the cellular bricks. They fill in the microscopic canyons between the curling cells, gluing them down flat.
So if someone with dry skin attempts to use a water-based gel,
The water will evaporate within 20 minutes because there are no lipids to trap it. The cells will curl back up.
and when they attempt to apply liquid foundation,
The pigment will aggressively cling to those dry, raised edges, creating a highly textured, mottled appearance. Proper lipid application ensures the canvas is entirely primed.
got it. Now, the final step in this protective sealing phase is the application of broad-spectrum SPF 30+ say.
A non-negotiable step.
But the Weddizer text specifically includes a mandate here that catches so many people off guard. It says to use SPF even if the event is indoors.
Oh, people fight me on this all the time.
Here's where it gets really interesting, right? Because this is a monumental blind spot in the public understanding of skincare.
It truly is.
The associative logic is that sunscreen is for the beach. It's for direct sunlight and for preventing sunburns. If the wedding ceremony is in a stone cathedral and the reception is in a windowless ballroom, applying sunscreen seems like an unnecessary step that might just make the makeup look greasy.
That misconception stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the ultraviolet spectrum. Sunburns, the immediate painful reddening of the skin, are caused by UVB rays.
UV rays, okay.
UVB rays are relatively short. They hit the epidermis, and they are largely blocked by glass and thick cloud cover.
So if you are indoors, the UVB threat is neutralized.
But UVB is only a fraction of the spectrum. UVA rays have a much longer wavelength.
And what do?
They do not cause immediate painful burning, which makes them incredibly insidious. UVA rays effortlessly penetrate thick cloud cover, and they pass straight through standard architectural glass.
Oh, wow. Meaning if you are getting your hair and makeup done in a gorgeous, sun-drenched hotel suite with floor-to-ceiling windows,
You're sitting in a microwave of UVA radiation.
that is a terrifying visual.
It's the truth. You are absorbing massive amounts of radiation. UVA penetrates deep into the dermis. While it destroys collagen over the long term, in the short term on the day of the event, it triggers an immediate defensive response from the melanocytes.
The skin registers the radiation damage and initiates an inflammatory cascade,
Yeah.
which completely undermines all the soothing and neutralizing work we just did with the toners and the cold therapy.
Exactly. By hour 4 of the event, even if you never stepped outside, the UVA exposure through the windows will cause the skin to develop a subtle, uneven, blotchy redness.
So the pristine, even-toned canvas you created in the morning will look flushed and agitated in the evening photos.
A broad-spectrum SPF acts as a barrier against both wavelengths, and modern formulations utilize advanced polymers that don't leave that archaic, chalky white cast.
They actually function as incredible makeup-gripping primers now.
They do. Skipping it is sacrificing the longevity of the skin's appearance for the entire 14-hour day.
Wow. Okay, so we have managed the topical environment perfectly. But topicals have an absolute limit on how deeply they can penetrate.
They do.
This brings us to a major pivot in the Weddizer protocol, transitioning to mechanical and internal radiance. The platform emphasizes a highly holistic approach to wellness.
It's not just about creams and serums.
Exactly. It recognizes that the face isn't just a sheet of leather you rub chemicals onto. It is biological tissue connected to a vast internal system.
Yes.
To achieve a truly radiant look, the guide mandates manipulating the skin physically and nourishing the body internally.
We are moving from chemical intervention to structural and systemic intervention.
The first structural intervention is facial massage. The guide suggests using the fingers, a jade roller, or a gua sha tool to radically boost blood circulation.
This is one of my favorite steps.
Let's unpack the true anatomy of this. We discussed the lymphatic system earlier regarding under-eye bags, but how does physically scraping and pushing the entire face, translate to a biological glow?
The circulatory system, the blood, has a massive, highly efficient muscular pump.
The heart?
The heart beats, and blood is forced through the arteries under immense pressure.
Right.
But the lymphatic system, which runs parallel to the circulatory system and is responsible for removing cellular waste and excess fluid, has absolutely no central pump.
Oh, wait, it's an entirely passive system.
Entirely passive. It relies completely on skeletal muscle contraction, gravity, and manual manipulation to move fluid.
Yeah.
When you are stressed, tense, and sleep-deprived, the facial muscles lock into rigid positions. The fluid in the lymphatic vessels stagnates.
It just sits there.
It pools in the interstitial spaces, making the jawline look soft, the cheeks look heavy, and the entire face look deeply fatigued.
So the nodes under the jaw and in front of the ears are basically clogged drains waiting to be opened.
That is exactly what they are. By taking a gua sha tool, or your knuckles, and firmly but gently sweeping outward from the center of the face toward the hairline and then down the neck, you are literally acting as an external heart for your lymphatic system.
Wow.
You are physically forcing that stagnant, waste-filled fluid through the vessels, down the cervical lymph nodes, and back into the circulatory system to be filtered by the kidneys.
You are manually draining the swamp.
The immediate visual result is astonishing. The soft tissue tightness vanishes, revealing a sharper jawline and more pronounced cheekbones.
And it probably helps with color, too.
Yes. Simultaneously, the physical friction of the massage causes vasodilation in the microcapillaries of the skin.
Wait, we were using cold earlier to shrink vessels under the eyes, but here we want the friction to open the vessels in the cheeks.
Exactly where you want color. The friction draws fresh, heavily oxygenated, nutrient-rich red blood to the surface. That is the biological definition of a flush.
Okay, I love this.
Furthermore, the physical pressure acts on the muscle fascia. On high-stress days, we unconsciously clench our masseter muscles in the jaw and furrow the corrugator muscles in the brow.
And that tension creates harsh, dark shadows across the topography of the face.
Deep tissue facial massage physically breaks down the adhesions in that fascia, forcing the muscles to uncoil and elongate.
Which means the skin then drapes more smoothly over the relaxed bone structure.
Completely softening the resting facial expression.
So what does this all mean? It sounds like we need to stop treating our face just like a canvas we are painting on and start treating it like a complex muscular system that needs a gentle workout and a glass of water before it can perform.
That is exactly what it is. And just as a body needs hydration before a workout, the facial tissues require systemic hydration.
Which is why the Weddizer guide moves immediately to internal nourishment.
Yes, internal hydration is key.
The guide specifically prescribes starting the morning with warm lemon water, fresh fruit juice, or coconut water, explicitly noting that this internal hydration is the only way to improve true skin elasticity.
It's true.
The obvious question here is about the choice of liquid. If hydration is the goal, why not just consume a massive amount of tap water?
Because flooding the digestive system with pure, unmineralized water does not equal cellular hydration.
It doesn't.
No. If you drink a gallon of plain water on an empty stomach, the kidneys will rapidly filter it, and it will be excreted within the hour.
Which is a logistical nightmare if you are about to put on a complex wedding dress or a tailored suit.
Exactly. Pure water lacks the chemical transport mechanisms required to cross the cellular membrane efficiently. Beverages like coconut water or fresh, cold-pressed fruit juice are naturally dense with electrolytes.
Specifically potassium, magnesium, and sodium.
The electrical conductors of the body.
Right.
These electrolytes function as molecular keys. They bind to the water molecules and actively unlock the ion channels in the cellular walls. They pull the water inside the cell and trap it there.
Oh, wow. This creates internal osmotic pressure.
The cells themselves inflate like water balloons.
And this internal cellular turgor pressure is what provides the skin with bounce and elasticity.
Precisely. No topical hyaluronic acid, no matter how advanced, can replicate the structural firmness of a fully hydrated internal cellular matrix.
That makes total sense. And the specific recommendation of warm lemon water plays into the timeline of the morning too, right?
It does. It's not just about hydration, it's about systemic awakening.
Because the warm temperature combined with the citric acid stimulates the liver to begin producing bile, kickstarting the digestive tract.
Yes. A sluggish digestive system almost instantly reflects on the face as sallow, congested skin.
It's all connected. The internal environment dictates the external presentation.
Abs-
Speaking of external presentation, there is a fascinating bonus tip in this mechanical section of the guide.
The ice trick.
Yes. applying ice cubes wrapped in cloth to the entire face, for instance, all over tightening.
Hmm.
We extensively discussed cold therapy for the eyes using patches, but utilizing raw ice on the whole face introduces a new level of thermal manipulation.
It's very effective, but it has to be done right.
Right, because the guide is hyper-specific about wrapping the ice in cloth. Why is the buffer so critical? What happens if you just take a bare ice cube and glide it across your cheekbones?
That is a critical safety distinction. Applying bare ice directly to facial skin, which is remarkably thin, results in rapid, uncontrolled thermal transfer.
Okay, so it gets cold too fast.
The localized temperature of the epidermal cells plummets so fast that the water inside the skin cells themselves, literally freezes and crystallizes.
Wait, what? Inside the cells?
Yes, and those ice crystals act like microscopic knives.
Oh my gosh.
They puncture and completely rupture the cellular membrane, destroying the cell. This is the biological mechanism of frostbite.
That is terrifying.
Furthermore, the extreme cold causes the fragile microcapillaries near the surface to spasm and burst.
Leaving permanent, spidery red, broken blood vessels across the cheeks and nose.
Exactly. So a bare ice cube is an absolute weapon of destruction.
Okay, point taken. Use a cloth.
The cloth serves as a crucial thermal insulator. It slows the transfer of cold, allowing it to penetrate the tissue deeply enough to trigger the massive systemic vasoconstriction we want.
Which instantly tightens the pores and forces all excess lymphatic fluid out of the face.
Yes, but completely insulated from the risk of thermal necrosis, because you aren't dropping the cellular temperature to the freezing point.
It delivers the physiological shock required for tightening, but safely. It is a highly controlled biological hack.
Very controlled.
Now, the mechanics we've discussed so far, the vascular pumping, the pH balancing, the cellular hydration, apply universally to human skin.
Right, baseline biology.
But the Weddizer material pivots here into an incredibly specialized section regarding niche needs. They specifically contrast the bridal skincare focus with the Grooms skincare focus.
This is where we shift from universal biology to objective-based aesthetic strategy.
Because the baseline biology is identical, but the final visual goal dictates entirely different chemical approaches.
Exactly.
The text outlines that the bridal focus, or the focus for anyone wearing extensive cosmetic makeup, is hyperhydration and brightening. Conversely, the groom focus, or anyone remaining barefaced, prioritizes extreme oil control, mattifying, and soothing post-shave irritation.
The necessity of this divergence comes down to how cosmetic products interact with the skin's natural secretions throughout a long day.
Let's dissect the bareface strategy first. Why is mattifying the ultimate goal for someone not wearing makeup? If we just spent all this time trying to create a glow, why do we suddenly want to absorb all the oil?
Because a biological glow and a sebaceous oil slick reflect light entirely differently to a camera lens.
Okay, how so?
When the skin is bare, it continues to produce sebum. Sebum is a highly refractive lipid. As it pools on the forehead and the bridge of the nose, a high-powered camera flash hits that oil and bounces back as a harsh, concentrated white glare.
The classic sweaty-looking shiny forehead in wedding photos.
Right. Mattifying products utilize silica, clay, or advanced polymers to act as microscopic sponges, continuously absorbing that sebum as it is produced.
So they create a velvety finish.
They do. A finish that scatters the light softly, resulting in a face that looks impeccably clean and defined rather than greasy and overheated.
But if someone is wearing a full face of makeup primer, liquid foundation, setting powder, contour, setting spray, that makeup acts as its own massive moisture-absorbing sponge, right?
A terrifyingly efficient sponge, yes. Cosmetic powders are essentially desiccants. If you apply a heavy layer of makeup over skin that is only moderately hydrated, the makeup will aggressively suck all the water and oil out of the epidermis within hours.
The makeup parasitically drains the skin.
And once the skin is drained, the makeup has no lubricated surface to float on. It begins to crack, settling deep into the expression lines around the mouth and eyes.
Creating a heavy, cakey, prematurely aged appearance.
Which nobody wants. The bridal strategy of hyperhydration layering hyaluronic acid, rich emollients, and hydrating primers creates a deeply saturated reservoir.
It gives the makeup something to drink so it doesn't dehydrate the actual skin cells.
Exactly. It sustains the cosmetic layer for a 14-hour wear time without sacrificing the structural integrity of the epidermis.
Makes total sense. Now, the groom focus also heavily emphasizes soothing post-shave irritation.
Yes.
Shaving the face on the morning of an incredibly high-stakes photographed event Seems like a biologically volatile activity.
It is. Shaving is the most aggressive physical exfoliation most people will ever subject their face to.
A razor blade doesn't just cut the hair follicle, does it?
No, it shears off the entire top layer of dead keratinocytes and completely obliterates the lipid security barrier we discussed in the cleansing phase.
It leaves the underlying immature skin cells completely exposed to the air.
The skin is suddenly raw, deeply microinflamed, and highly vulnerable to bacterial infection in the hair follicles.
Which manifests as razor burn.
Exactly. And applying alcohol-based aftershaves to this raw tissue, which is a traditional but catastrophic practice, causes severe cellular dehydration and explosive vascular redness.
So the strategy must immediately pivot to barrier repair.
Flooding the compromised tissue with aloe vera, colloidal oatmeal, or Centella asiatica immediately neutralizes the inflammatory cascade.
These ingredients form a temporary synthetic protective film over the raw skin, right?
They shield it from oxygen and bacteria while the body rapidly attempts to rebuild the natural lipid barrier.
This precise management of oil and moisture leads directly into a list of common mistakes to avoid detailed in the Weddizer guide.
There's some big ones here.
There was one mistake listed that seems entirely contradictory to everything we just discussed about oil control. I have to ask.
Okay, what is it?
If I want to look really clean and fresh, isn't skipping moisturizer a good idea so I don't look greasy in photos? Because the guide explicitly warns against skipping moisturizer, even for people who want to remain completely matte.
It is the most common and most disastrous intuitive leap in skincare.
Really?
Starving the face of moisture triggers a biological failsafe known as compensatory seborrhea.
Compensatory seborrhea. How does the body even know it's being starved?
The epidermis is lined with microscopic sensors that constantly monitor transepidermal water loss. When you aggressively cleanse the skin, stripping the oils, and then refuse to apply a moisturizer, water begins evaporating from the face at an alarming rate.
Okay, the sensors pick that up.
Those sensors detect the rapid desiccation and send an emergency distress signal down into the dermal layer where the sebaceous glands reside.
The glands that produce oil.
And the signal essentially says, we are losing water rapidly, seal the surface immediately. The sebaceous glands respond by going into absolute overdrive. They violently pump out massive quantities of squalene, wax esters, and triglycerides, flooding the surface of the skin to create a physical, occlusive block against the evaporating water.
You try to starve the skin of oil, and the skin responds by drowning you in it.
Within 3 hours of skipping moisturizer, the face will produce double or triple the amount of oil it normally would. You are left with a massive, uncontrollable oil slick right as the photos begin.
That's a disaster. So how does moisturizing stop that?
By applying a lightweight matte moisturizer, you artificially satisfy the skin's moisture sensors. The alarm bells are silenced, and the sebaceous glands remain completely dormant.
The body just wants homeostasis. If you provide it, it relaxes.
Exactly.
Another critical mistake the text highlights is applying too many layers of products. We live in an era of 10-step skincare routines. Why is layering 5 different serums and creams a disaster on the morning of an event?
It comes down to the polymer chemistry of the formulations. Skincare products rely heavily on silicones, acrylates, and various thickening agents to create a pleasant texture. And the skin has a finite absorption capacity. It can only take in so much before the surface is saturated.
Like trying to pour a gallon of water into a wet sponge, the excess just sits on top.
When you layer multiple incompatible polymers on top of each other, they don't absorb, they pool on the surface.
Okay.
When you subsequently apply physical friction, like rubbing in foundation or sunscreen, those unabsorbed polymers begin to cross-link and tangle together.
They clump up.
They ball up into microscopic, rubbery spheres that shed off the face. It looks exactly like eraser shaving scattered across your cheeks and jawline.
Ugh, I hate when that happens.
This phenomenon is called pilling. And once it starts, it is impossible to reverse without entirely washing the face and starting from scratch.
And no one has the time to start from scratch when the photographer is waiting in the lobby. Keep the chemistry simple.
Yes.
The final physical mistake listed is over-exfoliating. We've already established that trying new harsh acids is a terrible idea. But even physical scrubs right before an event seem incredibly dangerous.
Aggressive physical exfoliation using scrubs with jagged particles like crushed walnut shells or heavy salts literally tears the stratum corneum apart.
Oh, that sounds painful.
It creates thousands of microlacerations across the face,
which guarantees severe, untreatable redness.
The tissue becomes profoundly inflamed and raw. Attempting to apply cosmetic foundation over raw, microlacerated skin is a nightmare.
I can imagine.
The chemical pigments sink into the wounds, causing a burning sensation, triggering more histamines, and resulting in an uneven, intensely red, irritated complexion that no amount of concealer can hide.
Leave the scrubs out of the morning routine entirely.
Got it.
So we have meticulously dismantled the chemical and physical interventions. But the Weddizer guide concludes with a section that elevates this entire protocol from a simple cosmetic checklist to a profound physiological truth.
Yes, the mind over matter section.
This is where we bridge the gap between topical cosmetic application and holistic systemic physiology. The protocol culminates in the instruction to simply relax and stay calm. It recommends light stretching, meditation, or calming music, stating explicitly, stress can affect your skin instantly. A relaxed mind reflects on your skin.
It's so important.
Now, we talk about confidence being your best glow as the nice, poetic sentiment. It sounds like a feel-good affirmation printed on a tea bag.
Right.
But based on the intense biological mechanics we've unpacked for the last hour, I have to ask, is there actually a physiological truth to that? Like, does a calm mind physically alter the face?
It is not poetry. It is hard clinical biology.
Really?
The field of psychodermatology maps the exact pathways between neurological state and cutaneous presentation. We discussed how anxiety triggers the sympathetic nervous system, spiking cortisol and clamping down the blood vessels to drain the face of color and oxygen.
The panic response.
Yes. When you engage in the guide's recommendation of deep, diaphragmatic breathing or meditation, you actively hijack your own nervous system. Deep breathing violently stimulates the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve being the central superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest system. It is the biological antagonist to fight or flight. The moment the vagus nerve is engaged, it signals the adrenal glands to immediately halt the production of cortisol and adrenaline.
The chemical floodgates are closed.
As the cortisol levels plummet, the entire vascular constriction process reverses. The smooth muscles lining the microcapillaries in your face receive the signal that the threat has passed. They gently dilate.
And all that oxygen-rich, nutrient-dense blood that was trapped in the core of the body comes rushing back up the neck and floods into the millions of tiny vessels in the cheeks, the lips, and the forehead.
Your natural, vibrant color returns instantly. Simultaneously, because the inflammatory markers are rapidly dropping, the permeability of the capillaries normalizes.
They stop leaking plasma into the interstitial tissue.
The acute stress-induced puffiness physically begins to subside as the lymphatic system processes the remaining fluid.
You are literally controlling the blood flow to your face through the rhythm of your diaphragm.
And it extends to the musculoskeletal system. Anticipatory anxiety forces the body into a defensive posture. The shoulders creep toward the ears, the neck shortens, and the hundreds of tiny mimetic muscles in the face contract.
This chronic microtension completely disrupts the natural, smooth draping of the skin over the skull.
It creates a face that looks pinched, sharp, and exhausted.
Wow.
When you force a state of profound calmness and confidence, the neurological signals causing that microtension cease, the jaw unlocks, the corrugator muscles between the eyebrows flatten, the platysma muscle in the neck elongates, which drastically improves the efficiency of the lymphatic drainage we talked about earlier.
The tension literally melts away, and the skin returns to its natural, uncompromised structural state.
The Weddizer Guide's instruction to relax is not a throwaway wellness buzzword. It is the foundational mechanical imperative required to allow every single serum, moisturizer, and massage technique to actually function.
Because without mitigating the cortisol response, every product applied to the skin is fighting an impossible uphill battle against the body's own survival mechanics.
It is the catalyst for the entire operation.
This realization perfectly validates the core utility of a platform like Weddizer. They aren't merely providing a sterile shopping list of hyaluronic acids and vitamin C serums.
No, they are architecting highly tailored, comprehensive blueprints for survival on high-stress days.
Exploring the article section on their website doesn't just teach you how to apply a cream, it teaches you how to biologically master your niche scenario. Understanding that the ultimate, most potent active ingredient in any skincare routine is the neurological state of the user.
It is the ultimate formulation, combining chemistry, physics, and psychology into a single, cohesive strategy.
We have completely transformed this morning routine from a series of arbitrary cosmetic steps into a masterclass in human biology. We started by understanding the compromised, panicked canvas of the skin, oxygen-starved, inflamed, and swollen by cortisol.
We reset that canvas by meticulously protecting the lipid barrier, utilizing lukewarm water and pH-balancing toners heavily loaded with humectants to pull moisture back into the cells.
We manipulated thermodynamics, utilizing controlled cold therapy to physically pump stagnant lymphatic fluid out of the under-eye tissue, and harness the friction of facial massage to force oxygenated blood back to the surface.
We defended the surface from microscopic environmental stressors using the antioxidant power of vitamin C, and we sealed that entire carefully constructed environment with precise lipid-calibrated moisturizers and broad-spectrum UVA protection.
And most critically, we recognize the profound biological necessity of overriding our own nervous system through deep vagal nerve stimulation.
The methodology is dense, but the golden rule remains elegantly simple. Respect the skin's structural barrier, flood the internal and external systems with hydration, and absolutely never introduce a new, untested chemical variable on the morning of a major event.
For those listening who are staring down the barrel of a massive life event, whether you are the bride, the groom, or the executive stepping onto a stage, the granular, highly tailored advice we unpacked today is just the beginning. By
Exactly.
utilizing the Weddizer website for your skincare and wellness prep, you can dive deep into their article section to find the exact niche guidance required to ensure your specific biology performs flawlessly when the pressure is highest.
It's about deploying the correct biological strategy for the exact right moment.
It is. We open this deep dive talking about the sheer vulnerability of walking into a bathroom on the morning of a high-stakes event, looking in the mirror, and realizing that an entire year of meticulous, expensive preparation feels completely fragile in the face of a single sleepless night.
It can feel so defeating.
But we learned that the skin is not a static piece of polished marble, but a highly reactive, living organ that responds instantaneously to the chaos of the mind.
It is a mirror reflecting our internal physiological state.
And that realization leaves me with a final thought for you, the listener, to carry with you as you prepare for whatever major moment lies ahead. We invest thousands of dollars and countless hours into topical chemical solutions, hoping to buy a radiant, bulletproof exterior.
We all do.
But if stress instantly shuts down the microcapillaries in our face, draining our color and swelling our tissues, and if deep, intentional calmness instantly reverses that process, flooding the skin with oxygen and vitality, what if the most powerful, effective skincare routine you can possibly master isn't contained in a glass dropper or a jar of cream?
A great question.
What if the true routine is the rigorous mental mastery of your own anxiety in the days leading up to the event, and the physical application of products on the morning of is simply the victory lap? Think about that next time you look in the mirror. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.